All right, I want to do a quick video on using an Ecoflow River 3 Plus as an UPS unit for your workstation, whether it be your desk at home, your desk in the office, or if you're like me and you have 15 other workstations that are not yours and various other things that require UPS units. I want to show you the good and bad of using the Ecoflow River 3 Plus from my experience. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now for my personal setup, and in fact purchased another one, so that should tell you right there it's doable, but it's not the perfect solution quite yet. And I'm going to go over that and why. This is not a paid review. This is not really a product review. It's more of a use case review for this specific product. So I figured I'd open one while we're here together and see if it works right out of the box. That's the first thing. And I'll show you what you get. Now, you've probably seen dozens of other videos about these. And I'm going to warn you right now, a lot of those videos are actually paid sponsorships. And if they're not paid sponsorships, they're videos where somebody received one of these for free to review it, and I feel like that always skews the output. This is not a paid review. This I bought with my own money, just like the previous one that I already have set up on my desk in my office upstairs. And here's what you get. You get a user manual, which I don't think anybody actually opens those. You get a little package on top with some cables. And in here, this is right off the bat, a little bit deceptive. So let me move this out of the way and show you what you get. You get your wall charging cable, which comes with a tag on it that says Ecoflow River Series only. I don't know what that's about, but my guess is that I think what they mean is only use this cable to charge your River Series. I don't think it means that this cable can't be used for something else, although maybe it can't be used for something else. I think it would work. And my guess is because they have the little bead on there to keep it from damaging your unit from interference. That's my guess. I'm thinking they mean only use this to charge your Ecoflow and no other cable. It comes with a USB cable, which is where I say it's a little bit deceiving. This is a regular USB-A to USB-B old school cable. It comes with your solar charging cable. And actually, no, this isn't solar charging. This is the car charging cable, which we won't be using in this scenario because we're not going to be using it in a car. We're going to be using it at a work desk. So, or like a computer station, whatever, your desk. All right, and here's the actual unit. So, it does come with the USB cable. I've seen other videos explaining what the USB cable is for, and I was really hoping that I could go over that portion of it here with you today. And the whole point of this is so that you can take your unit, and on the back of it, there's a USB port, and you can plug into your USB port on the back and hook this to your computer. And so when the power fails, it tells your computer, hey, the power's out, you should shut down safely, and that way you don't corrupt your files on your computer. But unfortunately, in the other videos I've watched, people mention that there's a software package available from Ecoflow that will do that. So upon my own research, I just Googled Ecoflow UPS unit software, and I found a page on Ecoflow's site that doesn't have a download link. So I went and commented on one of the other videos that reviewed this product, and in that video, the person who posted the video, I'm not going to mention names, they replied to me very quickly and told me that here's the link where I was able to get the software, something to that effect. And I went to that link, and the software is not there. So we're thinking maybe it was beta software. I think they may have mentioned that in their response to me that maybe it was beta software and it's not quite available yet. They did mention in their video that the Mac OS version of the software wasn't available, but from my experience, none of it's available yet. So you can't actually use one of these to shut down your computer when the power fails. And the reason that's important if you're new to UPS units is when the power fails, this is supposed to keep your computer alive for a certain amount of time. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 45 minutes, depends on how much load you have on it. And then it should shut down your computer safely before the battery is depleted on here. And normally that software with an UPS unit would give you the option to set a little slider and say, okay, shut my computer off when there's 10 minutes remaining or 10% of the battery remaining or something to that effect. That way you're not shutting your computer off just because there was a 10-second power failure. Maybe you only care about long-term power outages. Anyhow, this is what you'll get when you open the box. And I will, before I go any further with this, I'm obviously a fan of Ecoflow, and I'm going to show you why I say that. I've been using them since 2021. This was my original Ecoflow that I purchased. This is the original River series, and this is with the max battery pack, so I had actually added on the additional battery. And this is the River 3 Plus that came out most recently, which claims it has 10 millisecond failover for UPS units, which I do believe that to be true. I've seen the tests. I don't think they're lying about that. And then I also have the new River 3 series, which I keep this in my car, and I use it for things like charging up the batteries on an electric scooter when you're parked. You don't want to drain your battery of your car. Keep this charged up in the trunk all the time. You can charge your scooter, top it off. I've also used it for a little miniature refrigerator. It's like a miniature cooler. I use this because once you shut the car off, the port in the back of the car shuts off. So if you go out to dinner and you want to keep the refrigerator running, you can plug it into this. When you turn the car back on, this will charge itself again because it's hooked into the port in the car. And you always have a way to run your refrigerator when you're out to dinner if you go grocery shopping. You don't have to worry about, everything thawing out. Let me find a place to put this. Okay, so back to the River 3 Plus, which we're talking about here. One downside, like I said, it doesn't shut your machine off. But 90%, maybe even 99% of the power failures that I have, I don't use that feature. I don't care for it. I have a generator that's going to kick on and start charging this unit anyway within a few minutes of the outage. So in some locations, that generator comes on within 10 seconds, and in other locations, that generator comes on within 5 minutes. So that doesn't really change my use case. So if you don't care about shutting down your equipment, or you're going to use it on a router or a set of switches or something to that effect where you can't shut them down safely anyway, then this is probably for you. Now there's another downside. Now I'm just going to go ahead. Okay, first we're going to see if this works. Let's talk about some of the, I know it's kind of all over the place. Let's talk about some of the things I've experienced with Ecoflow since day one. The first unit, the River that I just showed you, I received it in 2021. Within a month, it stopped charging itself. I believe it was within the first month. I contacted Ecoflow. They very generously just sent me a new one and told me to send back the old one, so I did. That was under warranty. Then my River, the one I just showed you, the River 3 that I recently received, it wouldn't power on when I got it. So I let it charge overnight and it powered on the next day. But then when I went to use it the first time, it wouldn't power on again. So I contacted Ecoflow. They said charge it. They told me what to do. Still didn't work. They sent me another one for free. So I can't complain about customer support. And I believe on my original River at this point, it doesn't charge through the USB-C port, but I'd have to go back and check that with a couple different cables because it was working one day and it stopped working. So now it's out of warranty, so I can't get that fixed. I also have an Ecoflow Delta Pro 3, which is solar powered and powers my lab equipment in this room. I also have an Ecoflow Delta Plus that I use for a large rack as an UPS unit. Again, doesn't have the failover software, but on that rack, that wouldn't really matter because it would only shut down one piece of equipment, and there are 15 pieces of equipment in that rack. That's really just to bridge that time for when the power goes out and the generator kicks on in that location. Okay, so let's just see if this wants to power up because maybe it'll have the same demise as my original. Okay, so there we go. That one powered up, no problem. I'm going to assume everything's fine. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the steps of setting this up in the app because it will most likely change between now and when you get yours because there are a lot of changes. Ecoflow does a great job with their updates. I actually waited to do this video until there was a firmware update available for this unit because there was another very important thing that I wanted to try. And that is, on my other Ecoflow products, when there is a software update, a firmware update for these, and you open the app, it tells you there's an update. When you go to do the update, it shuts off the outputs. So when the update became available for the one that's running my desk upstairs, and I did the firmware update, there's no way to avoid your AC ports from being turned off. So if you're going to use this for critical equipment, you're going to either need to shut everything down when you do your firmware updates. And again, most off-the-shelf UPS units that have lead-acid batteries in them don't get firmware updates anyway. So you could just never do the updates. That's one option, although you'll continuously be told you have an update available. The other option is to safely shut everything down at that station before doing the update, which I would highly recommend, or you can corrupt or damage your equipment. And you have a third option that many people might not know about, and this is not going to be practical for most people. And that is you can use a dual input PDU. This guy. Now this is a dual input PDU. What that means is imagine a power strip. This is a rack mounted version, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to be rack mounted. You might find one that's not. Imagine a power strip that has two input cords on it, and so basically two wall plugs with a bunch of outputs. And whichever output is powered is the one that's going to power the PDU. So if you lose power on here while the update's happening, you can have it fail over to wall power during that time. It's only going to be 2 or 3 minutes. So that's a viable solution there. Or maybe you have two of these side by side in tandem because this was only $209. That's really reasonable for what you're getting. So you could have two side by side, do your update on the first one, do your update on the second one. And that actually isn't a terrible way to go because when the battery dies in your first one, this is going to automatically fail over to the second one if you have a PDU that's only drawing from input A and it switches over to input B. So that is an option. It adds a lot of cost doing that. Maybe it's not worth it for everybody, but I always put a PDU in the rack because if you have to do maintenance on your UPS unit, you can plug the other side of the PDU into the wall while you're pulling out your UPS unit without taking everybody offline anyway. So if you already have a rack with a PDU, that's a very viable solution for you if you plan on using this for a rack. Not so viable for a desk situation. Now, as far as the pros go, there are a ton of pros on this. One, the display. You don't get this type of information when you're using a regular UPS unit. And two is the app. I want to pull that up really quickly and we'll just take a look at it. And this is the app as of today. This is going to change for sure. Over time, it changes all the time. But if we take a look here in the app, you will see that there is I'm going to go ahead and hit screen record here so we can look at this together. So if you look at the app here, you can see that this unit right here, it discovered it because I'm sitting next to it. I'm not going to go through the steps because it will reveal some information about my Wi-Fi. Plus, like I said, it's a no-brainer, and there are dozens of videos that show how to do this. So we'll go into my office UPS, which is the unit upstairs, and you can see this is the information that you get. You're not going to get this from a regular UPS unit, and if you are, you're either going to have to pay for a cloud service or it's going to be kludgy. They're never, in my opinion, UPS units just never have good apps and good interfaces, but Ecoflow does that right. And so you can see here we're pulling in 81 watts from the wall, and we're powering my monitors and my computer with 83, 110 watts. It varies, it fluctuates. And I do use Home Assistant to shut off my monitors when I'm not in the room. If I shut the door, the monitors will shut off, and this will go down to maybe 40 or 50 watts. I have a Windows desktop computer as well as a MacBook Pro that is on here, so there's a lot of fluctuation whether or not the MacBook Pro is charging or not. I also have this set to only charge up to 90%, and you can see here there are options for all of that. So you can, and this, like I said, this will change as they update the app, but charge and discharge limits, I do let it go to 0 because I don't anticipate this to be going to 0 very often. If there's a power failure, it's very rare, but if it happens, at least it keeps us alive. And like I said, in this location, there will be backup power within a few minutes. So this doesn't have to, it'll probably never go to 0. But I don't charge it beyond 90%. You see they recommend 80. I guess I could even bring it down to that. But what's really nice about this is you can tell, you have a general idea of how much time remains on your battery. So if I were to unplug the AC output on this, unplug the AC input on this, this will tell me how much time remains before it's going to be dead. So you know if you have to do anything about it. UPS units are, in my experience, regular UPS units are always wrong. Plus they use lead acid batteries, which need to be replaced regularly, and they don't really last that long even when they're under a load, where this would last for 2 hours under just having the CPU powered up if it was running at 30 watts, say. And you can easily do the math. Another nice thing is you can easily expand. There's an expansion port on here. You just stack another battery on the bottom, depending on what kind of load you anticipate, and that's problem solved, where a lot of UPS units have a giant cord and a very heavy battery pack. So although there are some drawbacks, and those are the things that I would have wanted to know about this before purchasing it, I still use it. Another minor drawback is that there's an AC port on the front, which I never use, and the way I have it situated on my desk, it's kind of behind everything else. I do use the USB ports, but having only 2 AC ports on the back is kind of inconvenient, but not terrible because you're going to have a power strip at your desk anyway. And a lot of times the ports on the back of an UPS unit, not all of them are on battery backup anyhow. So let's go back and look at the app one more time. Maybe there's something else here. Okay, so the power outage reminder, what this does is this will make the light on the bottom flash to let you know that the power has failed if this is enabled. I kind of like that. I want to know my power's out. It doesn't beep and go crazy like a regular UPS unit does, but I'm going to have other ways of knowing my power's out. I won't need the beep. And then the rest of what's here is pretty standard stuff. If you're running it as an UPS unit, you just want to make sure that you don't have any of your device timeouts set. You don't want it to time out, obviously, or it will shut your computer off. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you an overview of my experience using it as an UPS so far. The fact that there's no software out there yet that you can use to automatically shut down your equipment, even though it does come with the USB cable for when that becomes available. I would actually like to see that not require this cable, and maybe they do it over Wi-Fi so that this is connected to your network via Wi-Fi. When a power outage is detected, the machines on your network all communicate with it, so that way you can have more than one machine automatically safely shut down. Maybe they won't do that because if the power is out, maybe they're assuming your Wi-Fi is going to be out, but if you're using it as an UPS and it's powering your Wi-Fi, then it would still be up. And the last point of caution here is, like I said, the AC ports shut off when you go to do the software update. That's a big problem, especially if you're using it to power your router or your modem, because as soon as you go to start the firmware update, it's going to shut your router and your modem off, and the update is then going to fail. You want to make sure you have your settings in your app to memorize the output settings so that those AC ports come back on after that failure, or else it's just going to be off and stay off, and if you're not on site, you're not going to be able to get this thing back on without a human coming over and turning it back on for you. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I know it's kind of all over the place, but that's kind of how it is when you're actually using the equipment and you don't really have a script to go on. But like I said, I do love Ecoflow products. They've treated me well so far. I have one in my cars. I use them in my garage. Heck, I use them to pump the water off my pool cover in the fall if I have a GFI that trips in the backyard. So they're very useful to have around, but as far as this use case, I hope it's very disruptive to the UPS market. I never was a fan of any of the off-the-shelf UPS that are available. Having this battery chemistry makes it so it should last 11 years. We'll see what happens 10.5 years from now if that's true. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that like button, maybe share it, give me a comment, ask some questions. If you have a question I didn't cover, I'm happy to go try it out and let you know in the comments. See you guys next time.